It was December 1978 and Muhammad Ali was sitting in the very luxurious palace of King Khalid ibn Abdulaziz Al Saud in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The heavyweight champion had been invited to the kingdom as a special guest of honor, part of a diplomatic visit that was supposed to be formal. But what happened in that ornate meeting room would become one of the most extraordinary displays of principle over profit in sports history. Ali was 36 years old and nearing the end of his legendary career. He had recently regained his heavyweight title for the third time by defeating Leon Spinks, cementing his status as the greatest in the eyes of the world. But despite his success in the ring, Ali's finances were not as secure as his reputation. Boxing purses in the 1970s, while substantial, were nowhere near the astronomical figures that today's champions command. King Khalid, one of the wealthiest men in the world, had invited Ali not just for his boxing prowess, but for something far more significant: his conversion to Islam and his status as the most famous Muslim athlete on the planet. The meeting had been arranged through intermediaries months in advance. King Khalid, who had ascended to the Saudi throne just 2 years earlier, was a passionate admirer of Ali's courage in standing up for his religious beliefs, even when it cost him years of his prime fighting career during the Vietnam War. "Mr. Ali," the king said through his translator as they sat surrounded by advisors and royal attendants in a room that seemed to drip with gold and precious stones. "You have brought honor to Islam through your courage and your faith. The entire Muslim world looks up to you." Ali, who had traveled to Saudi Arabia with his wife, Veronica, and a small entourage, nodded respectfully. He had always been moved by how his conversion to Islam had resonated with Muslims around the world, but he was unprepared for what came next. "I have a proposition for you," King Khalid continued. "I want to offer you something that will secure your future and the future of your family for generations to come." The king gestured to one of his advisors who stepped forward carrying an ornate briefcase. Inside were documents that would change Ali's life forever if he chose to accept them. What the king proposed was almost incomprehensible in its scope and generosity. He was offering Ali 100 million, an astronomical sum that adjusted for inflation would be worth over 400 million today. But this wasn't payment for a single fight or even a series of fights. This was something entirely different. "I want you to become the official representative of Saudi Arabia and Islam to the world," King Khalid explained. "You would be our global ambassador, traveling to every nation, speaking about the true nature of Islam, countering the misconceptions that exist in the Western world." The terms were extraordinary. Ali would receive 100 million upfront along with a palace in Riyadh, a private jet for his travels, and an annual salary of 10 million for the rest of his life. In return, he would spend 6 months of each year in Saudi Arabia, and the other 6 months traveling the world as the kingdom's representative. But there was one condition that would prove to be the deal breaker. Of course, the king added almost casually, "You would need to renounce your American citizenship and become a Saudi citizen. You would also need to move your family here permanently and fully embrace the Saudi way of life." The room fell silent. Ali's entourage exchanged glances, clearly recognizing the magnitude of what was being offered. This wasn't just money. This was generational wealth beyond imagination, the kind of financial security that would make Ali and his descendants wealthy for centuries. Ali asked for time to consider the offer, and that evening back in his luxurious guest quarters, he wrestled with the most difficult decision of his life. His financial advisor, who had accompanied him on the trip, laid out the numbers in stark terms. "Muhammad, this is more money than you could make in 100 lifetimes of boxing." The advisor said, "Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren would never have to worry about money again. This would solve every financial concern you've ever had." And it was true. Despite his success in the ring, Ali's finances were complicated. His generosity was legendary. He gave money to anyone who asked, supported numerous charities, and maintained a large entourage that required constant funding. The purses from his fights, while substantial, were quickly distributed to others or invested in ventures that didn't always pan out. Veronica, his wife, was conflicted. She could see the appeal of the offer, but she also understood her husband better than anyone. "Mohammed," she said quietly as they sat together that night, "what does your heart tell you?" Ali was silent for a long time, staring out the window at the desert landscape. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful and measured. "My heart tells me that some things are worth more than money," he said. "My heart tells me that America, for all its problems, is still my home. My heart tells me that I can't represent Islam authentically if I'm being paid to do it." The next morning, Ali met again with King Khalid. The palace was even more magnificent in the daylight, with sunbeams streaming through stained glass windows and reflecting off golden fixtures that probably cost more than most people would earn in a lifetime. King Khalid was confident that Ali would accept. After all, who could turn down such an offer? The king had sweetened the deal overnight, adding another 20 million and offering to build Ali his own mosque anywhere in the world. "Have you reached your decision?" King Khalid asked, smiling warmly. Ali stood up, and for a moment, everyone in the room held their breath. This was one of the wealthiest men in the world, offering an almost unimaginable fortune to one of the most famous athletes on earth. "Your Majesty," Ali began, his voice clear and strong, "I am deeply honored by your generosity and your faith in me. The amount of money you're offering is beyond anything I could have ever imagined." He paused, and the king leaned forward expectantly. "But I must respectfully decline." The silence in the room was deafening. King Khalid's advisors looked at each other in disbelief. The translator asked Ali to repeat what he had said, certain there had been some misunderstanding, but Ali was just getting started. "Your Majesty, I became a Muslim because I believed it was the right path for me spiritually, not because I was looking for financial gain. If I accept your money and your citizenship, people will question whether my faith is real or whether it was just a business decision." He looked directly at the king, his voice growing stronger with each word. "I want to represent Islam to the world, but I want to do it as Muhammad Ali from Louisville, Kentucky. I want people to see that you can be a proud American and a devout Muslim at the same time. I want to show them that Islam isn't foreign to America. It's part of America." The king was stunned. In his world, money solved almost every problem and fulfilled almost every desire. But here was a man turning down 100 million based on principle. Ali continued, "If I take your money, I become your employee. But if I speak about Islam from my own heart, from my own experience, then my words have power, because they're true, not because they're paid for." What Ali said next would become one of the most profound statements about integrity and authenticity ever made by an athlete. "Your Majesty, you don't need to pay me to represent Islam. Islam has already given me everything I need. Peace in my heart, strength in my character, and purpose in my life. If I have to choose between 100 million and my authenticity as a Muslim American, I choose my authenticity every time." He gestured toward the opulent surroundings. "This palace is beautiful, but my home is in America with all its problems and all its possibilities. I can't fight for justice in America if I'm not an American. I can't speak to the American people about Islam if I've abandoned my American identity for money." The room was completely silent. King Khalid's advisors had never seen anyone turn down such an offer, especially not for such reasons. "I want to be a bridge between the Muslim world and America," Ali concluded. But bridges work because they connect two different places while remaining anchored to both sides. If I move entirely to one side, I can't be a bridge anymore. For several minutes, King Khalid said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with a respect that surprised everyone in the room. Ali, said the king slowly, in my entire life, I have never met a man who would turn down such wealth for such reasons. You have just proven to me that you are exactly the kind of man who should represent Islam to the world. He stood up and walked over to Ali, placing his hand on the champion's shoulder. Your refusal of my money makes me respect you more than your acceptance ever could. You are right. If you took my money, people would question your motives. But by refusing it, you have shown that your faith is priceless. The king paused, clearly moved by Ali's response. I withdraw my offer of money and citizenship, but I give you something more valuable, my friendship and my support for whatever you choose to do with your life. You will always be welcome in Saudi Arabia, not as an employee, but as a brother. Word of Ali's refusal spread quickly through diplomatic circles, though it wouldn't become public knowledge for several years. The king kept his word about their friendship. He remained in contact with Ali for the rest of his life, and often referred to the boxer as the man who chose principle over profit. But the impact of Ali's decision went far beyond his relationship with the Saudi royal family. His refusal to accept the money became a powerful statement about the difference between genuine faith and commercialized religion. In the years that followed, Ali's authenticity as a Muslim spokesperson was never questioned. When he spoke about Islam, people listened not because he was being paid to speak, but because they knew his conversion had cost him millions of dollars in lost earnings during his prime fighting years. The decision also enhanced Ali's credibility as an American. By choosing to remain in the United States despite the financial incentives to leave, he demonstrated that his criticism of American policies came from a place of love and desire for improvement, not from disloyalty or opportunism. The ripple effects of Ali's decision extended far beyond the boxing world. Religious leaders from various faiths began citing Ali's choice as an example of authentic spiritual commitment. The story became a case study in business schools about the difference between short-term financial gain and long-term credibility. Islamic scholars particularly praised Ali's reasoning, noting that his understanding of representing faith authentically demonstrated a sophisticated grasp of religious responsibility. By refusing payment for religious advocacy, Ali had shown that his conversion to Islam was genuine, not opportunistic. The decision also had political implications. During the Cold War era, when America's relationship with the Muslim world was complex and often strained, Ali's choice to remain an American while proudly practicing Islam provided a powerful counter-narrative to stereotypes about Muslim loyalty and American identity. What many people didn't realize was the personal cost of Ali's decision. Beyond the obvious financial sacrifice, turning down the Saudi offer meant continued financial stress for years to come. Ali's generous nature meant he was constantly supporting extended family, friends, and various causes. The Saudi money would have eliminated those pressures entirely. In the early 1980s, as Ali's boxing career wound down and his earning potential decreased, the weight of the decision became more apparent. Medical bills began mounting as the early signs of what would later be diagnosed as Parkinson's disease started appearing. Yet Ali never wavered in his conviction that he had made the right choice. When friends occasionally brought up the Saudi offer, he would simply smile and say, Allah provides for those who choose the right path. Despite Ali's refusal of the financial offer, his relationship with the Saudi royal family remained strong throughout his life. King Khalid kept his promise of friendship, and subsequent Saudi kings continued to treat Ali with enormous respect and affection. When Ali lit the Olympic torch at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, representatives from the Saudi royal family were among the first to congratulate him. They saw his performance that night, standing before the world with Parkinson's disease, but unbowed in spirit as vindication of their original assessment of his character. Ali's decision inspired countless other public figures, who found themselves facing similar choices between financial gain and personal integrity. Athletes, entertainers, and public intellectuals began referencing the Ali standard when discussing whether to accept lucrative offers that might compromise their principles. The story became particularly meaningful for other Muslim athletes and celebrities who faced pressure to become paid advocates for various causes or countries. Ali's example showed that it was possible to be proud of your faith and heritage while maintaining your independence and authenticity. In the decades following his refusal of the Saudi offer, Ali's decision was repeatedly vindicated. His credibility as a spokesman for Islam and for social justice remained unquestioned precisely because people knew he couldn't be bought. When Ali spoke about religious tolerance, racial equality, or social justice, his words carried weight because everyone knew he had turned down enormous sums of money rather than compromise his ability to speak truth to power. The authenticity that he preserved by refusing the Saudi money became his most valuable asset, worth far more than any financial payment could ever have been. Muhammad Ali proved that day in Riyadh that he truly was the greatest, not just as a boxer, but as a man who understood that some victories can only be achieved by walking away from the fight. His refusal of $100 million from a king became the ultimate proof that Muhammad Ali's principles were not for sale at any price, and that the most powerful statement a man can make is sometimes the offer he chooses to refuse. If this story of principle over profit and turning down unimaginable wealth for authenticity moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about choosing values over money. Have you ever had to choose between financial gain and your principles? Let us know in the comments below and ring that notification bell for more inspiring stories about how champions handle life's biggest decisions.